If you look closely at the people around you and remember truly the strongest people you have ever met in your life, and try to find what they all have in common, you will notice something. Something I am about to explain to you very precisely. Something you can use to your advantage. I will talk about principles that are not just basic, they are necessary. Without them, no one reaches the top. It is impossible. There is one phrase that was born in my mind after a certain story happened to me. What phrase is that? I wrote it everywhere when I was 16 years old. If you decided to be a man, from now on, everything that happens in your life is a conscious daily choice, without excuses. And what was that story? At that time, I was working in network marketing. I hear his footsteps. Guys, hello. My name is Maxim. You're from Oriflame, right? He said he was a cosmetics baron. My friend and I went to give a presentation to attract new partners. We arrived. It was a friend of a friend. We started talking. The dialogue didn't work. He was listening, but clearly not interested. And then he said a phrase that later became a famous meme in my community. He said, "No, I'm going to work with tower cranes. That's the real deal." We parted ways. I didn't like it. It felt like defeat. I always view things through the lens of competitive pragmatism. I looked at my friend and he said, "Oh, he's an idiot. Yaroslav, forget it." Then he continued, "Wait, we didn't warn him what the topic would be. We chose the wrong location to talk. It was noisy. There were many people. We didn't know he was in a hurry. He didn't have time." He listed everything we did wrong, counting on his fingers. Then he added what we could have done better. Another friend came over and said, "You're overthinking it. He's just an idiot." And here is what I want to say. When we decide that everything that happens in our life is the result of our own actions, on one hand, we take on a new burden, one that didn't exist before. Because before, you could always wave it away and say, "That's a problem on the other end of the line." But if we completely abandon that mindset and operate only from an author's position, total authorship of our life, we discover something interesting. The more willing we are to blame only ourselves for defeat, the more space we gain to achieve victory. How does that work? If it's always my fault, then every element becomes an object of close attention. Now imagine this situation multiplied by 10. 10 meetings. 2 people conduct them. One person, 10 times in a row, tells himself, "He's an idiot. Everything is fine with us." The second person, after each meeting, records his mistakes and thinks about how he could have done better. What happens? After 10 meetings, the first person stays exactly the same. The second becomes much more competent and understands the situation far more deeply. After 100 meetings, for the first person, everyone is still an idiot. For the second, things start to work. That is the difference. That is how it happens. I call this the principle of absolute personal responsibility. What does it mean? We remove all lyrical nonsense. We become completely uninterested in what is happening on the other end. We look only at what we did, at what we could have done, and we analyze only that. It is unpleasant. It is psychologically uncomfortable. But I noticed something. All powerful men, all strong men, all resourceful men, all high-status men, they never comment on the actions of their partners or opponents. There is a well-known American saying, commonly used in sports: winners are obsessed with winning. Losers are obsessed with winners. While you think about what you do not control, you gain no leverage over reality. The moment you stop thinking about what you do not control, you begin to understand what actually allows you to influence reality. So what is the final conclusion? How can we apply this as a technology to change our life? Very simple. When we face an unsatisfactory result, defeat, failure, or an outcome that is not good enough, and we begin the internal process of analysis and commentary. We must constantly ask ourselves, am I evaluating something I dislike and do not control? Or am I analyzing my own actions and my possible actions? If you train yourself in this kind of informational hygiene, you will take off into space. I began practicing this at 16 or 17. By the time I was 20, it had become such a habit that I don't even think about it anymore. It is my second nature. You can do the same. Now let's do a simple exercise, and you will understand the magic of this method. Write down absolutely everything you dislike in your life and list anyone as responsible, except yourself. Then make a new paragraph and write the same things again, but now add what you personally could do and what you are not doing. For example, I can't get into my dream university because of my parents. Change it to, I can't get into my dream university because I cannot find enough arguments to convince my parents. Do you feel the magic difference? Now write down the most painful things. Compare the accusatory position with the position of responsibility. Look at the transformation. Write it in the comments below. Read each other's stories. Learn from each other. Let's play Dota. We have a stack of dollar millionaires, and we have one friend named Gasat. His rage explodes every time something in the game doesn't go his way. Interestingly, the game becomes a kind of emotional outlet. In real life, total control. In the game, complete chaos. You run somewhere random, make a mistake, die, turn around and shout, "Guys, where were you? Why didn't you save me?" You ran into nowhere and died. In life, discipline. In the game, all hell breaks loose. Now, the second principle of the most successful men. I never get tired of criticizing the school mindset and how it sabotages our lives. In school, we are trained to receive achievements from nowhere. You get an A, good job. The teacher can print as many A's as they want. Real life is endless, ruthless, bloodthirsty competition. Money does not appear from nowhere. There is no such thing as earning money. Money does not flow from the ground. There is only taking money. When you sell a product or service, you simply present enough arguments for a person or your employer to give it to you. What does this realization change? First, the world is not a kindergarten. There is no distribution center for rewards. If you want something, you must present enough arguments to receive it. Second, and this is the good part, competition for a good life today is incredibly low. You might say, "Are you crazy? I'm struggling, suffering, barely surviving." And you say competition is low? I'll explain. Answer honestly. Do you know what you need to do for your life to improve? Yes or no? Second question. If for 2 or 3 weeks you acted like a Terminator, doing only what needs to be done, do you really think you wouldn't pull yourself out of the situation you're in? You would. So why don't you do it? You lack one simple skill: focus. The price of success in the modern world is the ability to concentrate. 200 years ago, you were born into the wrong class, no success. Born in the wrong era, go fight for some duke and die. Today we live in an era of absolute freedom and social mobility. You were born in a small town, move to a big city, work as a courier. Nothing stops you. What am I getting at? Understanding that the world is competition brings us back to one thing. Your position in society is the result of your choices and actions. Once you accept the rules, you ask, what stops me from winning? The answer, lack of focus. Focus is a huge topic, not for this video, but remember this image. It doesn't matter how competent the captain is. If he panics and hides in a corner, the ship sinks. I teach how to control that inner captain. Now, the third principle. I was born in an ordinary city. No powerful parents, no connections. As I grew, people fell away. I moved forward. Others stayed behind. I realized that any level of life is achievable. All impossibility comes down to two things: low energy, lack of focus. If you have energy and no distractions, you execute. You become unstoppable. Any goal, YouTube channel, dissertation, business, in the worst case, 2 or 3 months of ruthless, focused work. Nobody here is launching rockets into space. Why don't we do it? Because energy is governed by evolution. We have an inner gorilla, the energy bank. It asks, what do I get for this? Pain, no energy. Pleasure, status, sex, resources, unlimited energy. 3 conditions unlock infinite drive. You must clearly feel that your current life is bad. You must see how good life can actually be. You must understand your personal path between those points. When those align, procrastination disappears. You don't need to force yourself. You need to see the path. Then you don't stop. Others ask you to stop, but you can't, because every step brings you closer. That is the engine. That is how fantasy becomes reality.